Last week we found out if the new Recteq X-Fire Pro can truly be a replacement for a gas grill with its ability to sear. That's what I'm talking about. I think clearly the answer to that was yes. Yeah, this is awesome. But it is also supposed to be a smoker. So today we're gonna find out how is it smoking something simple like a rack of ribs over a low and slow 225 degrees. Let's go get it.
Basement.
All right, here we are back with the Recteq X-Fire. This thing still is beautiful. I've used it a few more times, so 3 total cooks. Every one of those cooks has been hot and fast using the sear mechanism. Today we're gonna do something low and slow, simply a rack of ribs that I've already seasoned. I've taken the membrane off the back. Very simple, used the rib rack seasoning there. I didn't even add a binder, and then I let it sit in the fridge for a couple hours. I'm just gonna stick it on there and let it go at 225. I'll decide later whether or not I'm gonna wrap based on what it's looking like. But before we get those ribs going, I wanna go over a couple more things with regards to the X-Fire. Number one, if you look over here on the side, you'll see this mechanism with a lever and a little tray. And some folks had said in the comments that this was the ash catch system to compare perhaps with what the Searwood has, but really it's not. When you turn this lever, all that's doing is turning the bottom of the burn pot like this so that if any gunk is left, it'll be dumped out into this little tray here. And so you can see that's what's in there. And there's another one just like this on the other side. Now that is not the same thing as having a full ash catch system, because if you look inside, what you see is that any ash that collects there on the bottom is not gonna come out via that mechanism. Only what's there at the bottom of that burn pot is what's gonna come out when you turn that lever. You can see a lot of grease and gunk. Eventually what I'm gonna have to do is pull all of these things out, which I'm not really looking forward to pulling this mechanism that opens and closes the sear. Maybe it's easy, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to wipe down the inside of this thing out because that is quite gunky, as you would expect. For the purpose of today, none of that really matters because we're gonna do low and slow. One of my concerns about this area doing low and slow with ribs or anything that's fatty, especially things like pork butt or brisket, is that all that fat is gonna drip down and possibly go inside of the burn pot itself and gunk it up. And I don't want that to happen. So I am gonna put a water pan. So I'm very simply gonna take this water pan and just rest it right here. The good news is they gave plenty of space below the grates to be able to stick water pans. Now, as we went over last time, the burn pot on this side is what is used for smoking, and on this side is not engaged at all if you're only in smoke mode, and that's what we're gonna do today. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this to smoke mode. Comes on right away. We're at 225 set point, which is what we're gonna do for the entire smoke. Currently 94, it's kind of hot out today in the sun. And we'll shut that, and once we see some smoke, we're gonna get those ribs on there and see what this thing can do. See you in a bit. All right, she's up to 180 degrees or so, good enough for me. So I'm gonna get those ribs on there right now. And I'm gonna stick it on this bottom rack over here, but I'm putting it on the right side. Now, the burn pot for the smoke mode is on the left. I wanna get as much smoke flavor as I can. I wanna prove whether or not this rig can be a smoker. So I'm not gonna put it over here so it doesn't get direct heat. Now, if it's not gonna produce that much smoke, because there's no extreme smoke mode, which again, I'm upset about, Recteq, get with it. If it doesn't get enough smoke in there and it just slowly cooks over time, there's no smoke flavor, this is gonna be a giant fail. I think you would all agree, but we're gonna find out today. So let's get it. We'll see you guys in a bit. All right, we're an hour in, so we're gonna go ahead and give it a spritz. This is just apple juice and water using my trusty spritzer here. It's about what you'd expect at this point. Not a whole lot going on. Again, only an hour in, 225. One of the reasons I'm concerned about whether or not this can be a smoker is I never see a lot of smoke coming out of this thing. If you compare it to the smoke that comes out of the smokestack on the Recteq Flagship 1100, or the smoke that typically is coming out of that Searwood, I really don't see much. I'm used to seeing a lot more smoke coming out other than when you first fire it up. So I'm a little bit nervous that we're not gonna get a lot of smoke flavor and that those ribs are gonna take a really, really long time to get up to temp. Now, there's a theory running around in certain circles, really just here in the house, that it's because of that really deep burn pot, that maybe it's burning those pellets even more efficiently and more cleanly, and so it's just a clean smoke that you can barely see unless I was to hold up a light here or something like that, but I just don't know. We could be making that up completely. We're gonna find out soon enough, so we'll see in a bit. So 2 hours in, unfortunately I missed it, but when I first came out here before the camera was on, there was a bunch of smoke pouring out of here. So every once in a while I noticed the controller goes to 225 and a little bit over, the blower goes on and off to get it back down to 225, and during that time a lot of smoke was produced. So fingers crossed we get a lot of smoke flavor. Time to spritz again. Love the color of that seasoning. No pullback yet, but that's to be expected. We're only 2 hours in. We'll see what happens at hour number 3. 3 hours in, and this is one of those occasions where we can actually see some of the smoke. Let's go ahead and spritz her up. Looking real nice. 4 hours in, at 3.5 hours, I did raise it to 250 degrees because it wasn't gonna take on too much more smoke flavor anyway at that point. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it. I wanna speed things up a little bit, maybe make it a little bit tender, a little bit more tender. So we've got this nice meat hugger, butcher paper. This stuff is really good. So we're gonna go ahead and pull off some here. You can see, it's like a 2x4, it's not moving yet. So we wanna tender this guy up a little bit. I'm gonna spray a little bit of apple juice just on the paper and on the meat itself. And I'm gonna put a whole stick of butter in there. Well, a quarter of a stick of butter in there. Very simple. I'm not gonna over wrap it. I'm not doing a whole tinfoil thing. I don't want this to be steamed, like fall off the bone. You can't even pick it up. I just want it to be a little bit more tender, and I'm hoping to keep that smoke flavor. I'm hoping there is smoke flavor, first of all. So we'll stick it right back over where it was, leave that face down for another hour, hour and a half, and hopefully we're good to go. See you in a bit. All right, so 5.5 hours in, and they're just not getting up to temp. I don't want to wrap them for too long, and I'm going to increase the temperature to 275 because we're going to be pushing 6 hours here really soon. All right, 7 hours and 8 minutes in, these ribs finally hit temp and we're probing tender. I'm not used to it taking this long. I think maybe having the firebox off to the side like that isn't ideal. I'm not quite sure. I tried to keep this on the other side so it would get more smoke flavor, but it took a really long time to cook. It doesn't seem like the entire pit was as hot as what the temperature would have you believe. I did not sauce it. I'm gonna dip or brush the sauce after the fact, but I just want to taste this meat just like that to see if we got any decent smoke flavor. Here's what it looks like on the inside. Looks pretty good on the inside. Decent smoke ring, definitely done. Nice bite, but still pulls off. Let's take a taste. Pretty good, tender. I gotta tell you though, it's not very smoky to be honest. Very juicy and tender, but I do wish there was more smoke flavor. I can tell you the Flagship, the Recteq Flagship 1100 would have 3 or 4 times as much smoke flavor as what I'm getting off this. And these were in there for, like I said, 7 hours and 8 minutes. So good meat, but to be honest, it's more like it was baked in the oven than smoked. So I'm starting to think, at least from this first test, that it is a fantastic sear machine, grilling, replace your gas grill. If you don't want to deal with a propane tank, you want to use wood-fired pellets and all that, fantastic. But as far as just a straight smoker, if you're more of a smoker than a griller, this might not be the machine for you. Still good though. At the end of the day, nobody's gonna shake a stick at you for feeding them this. The other thing is, this is the first time that I'm doing a smoke session on that machine. Maybe there's some things I could have done better. So I'm gonna continue to try it out. I do wanna do a brisket and or a pork butt, even longer smoke, see if we get more smoke flavor. I can add a smoke tube. I do that in the Searwood, even though the Searwood produces more smoke flavor than this, at least from my past experience and tonight's experience. I'd still call it a successful cook, but I want more smoke flavor. I still think it's a really, really nice machine, but it's not a pure smoker. All right, thanks for hanging out. See you next time.